topic today is making small talk track changes. That is a bit of a tongue twister. Small talk track changes that will lead to big results on your side. So talk track changes, we're gonna advise you on how you can make really small changes in the words that you use when you're selling. And it says talk track, but really what we're going to go through can impact your verbal words as well as your written words, meaning these changes can also impact the emails that you send out, the marketing materials that you put together, the blog posts that you write. It can have a lot of changes. It can impact a lot of different areas on your side. And I do want you to know providing you with a return on investment for the time you spend with us today is one of my top goals, and I'm extremely confident that you will walk away with at least 2 or 3 things from the time that we spend here together that you can immediately incorporate into how you're selling, and those things will produce a positive impact on your results. That being said, let's start out with 3 key assumptions that sort of I operate with on a daily basis. The first is that I truly believe that people don't enjoy being sold to. We don't mind buying stuff, and if you've been on my webinars, you've maybe heard me say this before. You might go out on the weekend, and sometimes it's kind of fun to spend money and buy something neat for your home or a new toy and whatnot. But nobody really enjoys the act of someone trying to convince them to buy something. It just can sometimes feel a little uncomfortable. When we buy something, we don't ever want to be taken advantage of. And when someone tries too hard to sell to us, sometimes we can wonder if they have our interests in their minds, or if they're only trying to fulfill their own interests, and it can just get uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, we know we need to add things to what we're doing, whether that's at a business or a personal level. The second assumption is that the thing you care about most is you. If you haven't really realized this in life, let now be the time where you start realizing this. We are all self-serving, me included. There's the most important thing to us is yourself. And you might say, well, my family is more important to me than myself, and that's true. But I would really consider your family and your wife or your spouse or your kids. That's part of you, right? I mean, they're connected to you. So what you care about most is your own personal pleasure, your own personal discomfort that you either try to avoid or are trying to decrease, your own personal rewards and whatnot. Maybe your own interests. If you think about the hobbies that you're interested in, or the areas of life that you're interested in terms of entertainment, think about how much you enjoy talking about those things, or reading a magazine on that topic, or watching a movie or whatever that's related to the areas that you're interested in. And then think about me talking to you about hobbies that I'm interested in that you'd have no knowledge of, or no passion in, or you aren't connected to in any way. If I sit there and talk to you about my hobbies, you're probably going to be a little bored. But if I focus more to talk about your hobbies, even if I'm not interested in your hobbies, I'll have your attention at a higher level. So start to always think about that the thing you care about most is you. And how we relate that to selling is that the prospects, what they care about most is them and their own property and environment. Moving on, the third assumption is that prospects get sold to a lot. When you're calling a prospect, you can assume that there are a lot of other people calling a prospect. When you meet someone at a networking event and you're trying to maybe sell to them, you got to keep in mind there's a lot of other people at that event trying to sell to them. Prospects get sold to a lot, and this is a good assumption to always keep in mind, because all of these assumptions should really impact the talk tracks that you use and what you say. So what are 2 things, if we agree with that, and I hope you do. If you completely disagree with all of that, then maybe you shouldn't spend your time with us here today. But if you agree with those to some degree, what are some changes that you can make to improve your sales results? And that's really what we're all about here today. So first, don't do everything you can to not sound like a salesperson. And this hits on to the prospects getting sold to a lot, right? If they're always being bombarded with salespeople and then you begin to sound like a salesperson, their guard is going to go to a high level. So try not to sound like a salesperson. And you don't have to hide the fact that you have something to offer, or that you're a business and you want to see if there's an opportunity to do business together. But there's a difference between sounding like a business person and a consultant and sounding like a salesperson. What we're going to talk to you here today will help you to sound more like a consultant, an advisor, or a business person. The other thing is that if we know that the prospect cares more about them than about you, let's focus more on them in our talk tracks and what we say. Now, because think about it, if they're most interested in their own world, and you're a salesperson and you're most interested in your own world, and if you follow your instincts, which is talking about your stuff, and they really don't care about your stuff, they care about their stuff, just picture what that type of interaction looks like. It's like two magnets with the kind of pushing each other away with the same positive side with the same side of the magnet touching each other. It just pushes each other away. So what we want to do is become aware of that and fight those internal instincts to focus on us, and we want to focus on them, and we'll show you exactly how to do that. That being said, I get prospected to every single day by salespeople doing the exact opposite of what I'm going to talk to you about here today. Let's look at some examples. I just grabbed these from my LinkedIn inbox, okay? And so, and if there could even be someone on the call. I've X'd out the company information, but let's look at some examples. This is an email. Hey, thanks for connecting with me. Hey, a lot of new things going on with my company. I would like to share them with you in the near future. Yeah, I bet you would. I don't care about your company, right? I care about my company. You've already. How does this person expect this to trigger some sort of conversation, right? Maybe there is a productive conversation between this person and I, but this type of email isn't going to get it going. Here's another one. Hi, Michael. Company X specializes in accounting financial services at affordable rates. We have experienced CPAs, blah, 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 handle bookkeeping, Okay, so they're just telling me about what they do. I'm not looking to buy these services right now. So I don't care. This is what you sell. I'm not buying it right now. I'm not going to even reply to this email. If I wasn't in the business I'm in, I wouldn't even read past the first sentence. So because I do this, I like to kind of read to see how bad emails are. I get kind of a kick out of it. The other thing I want to point out is that there are services that let me give you an example. There are certain services that I am kind of always looking to hire. And I get emails like this through LinkedIn or wherever, and if they're written in this way, I won't even reply, even if I am actively looking to buy that service, just because it rubs me the wrong way. It's someone trying real hard to sell to me. I'll go and post a job ad somewhere to hire a contractor and let them apply to me that way versus replying to any type of email like this. Here's another one. I want to introduce myself as part of Company X, a leader in data-driven marketing solutions. If you're looking to acquire blah, blah, blah. And so they just go on and on talking about what they sell and what they do. We also provide integrated marketing solutions like SEO, digital marketing. I mean, it's an informative email. I mean, this salesperson probably wrote this email and said, wow, that's a really good email that explains what I sell, right? Well, yes, it's informative, but if I'm not in buying mode, then it's landing on deaf ears, and so here's another one. I hope everything's going great with you. I wanted to reach out to ask who you're using for this. We want to do business with you. We want to sell you this. So it's just a bunch of salespeople trying to sell to me, right? And here's another one. I'm going to skip ahead. I don't know how you feel about that. I mean, the thing is that if you send one of those emails and you reach someone that's in buying mode and they aren't being sold to by a lot of different people, maybe you can generate some leads. And maybe if you send 1,000 of those emails, maybe you will get a percentage of those might turn into leads. But maybe there's small things you can do to those emails to where you create dialogue with customers, prospects that aren't in buying mode. Maybe you create a more productive dialogue with people who could be in buying mode, but you just don't turn them off. So we'll talk about that. But let me explain why this is so common, and probably why the majority of salespeople do this, and it's pretty understandable. The reason why is because this is what we are trained to do. This is how we're trained to communicate. The reason why is, I'm going to go through an example here, but I want you to kind of either I was going to tell you to close your eyes, but don't close your eyes. Picture yourself, think back to a time where you might have started a job working for a new company, and maybe you went through a new hire training program. And if you don't have that memory, play along and picture what that might be like, because I'm going to tell you what that's like. In most companies, you get hired on and you go through some new hire training. And you know what? We're going to teach you about the company that just hired you and that you work for. We're going to teach you about the products that we want you to sell. We're going to teach you what the products do and how they kind of work at a high level. We'll show you the features that you can sell and what the pricing is and whatnot. We'll also probably skim the surface on the benefits that are provided. And this is the training you'll go through. Once you get out of that training, we're going to give you a quota, we're going to give you a territory, and we expect you to go sell and be successful. Now, when you have all this knowledge shot at you with a fire hose, this becomes your foundation of knowledge. This is what all the training's focused on. And then even beyond the training program, this is going to become your wealth of experience, because you're exposed to this information 40 to 50 hours a week. So you're going to become very knowledgeable about these areas, and these are also areas where you have a lot of interest, because this is where you get paid. The problem with this is that this is very inward. It's all about me, my product, my company. And so when you have this foundation of knowledge, this is what you rely on every time you're talking with someone. And whether that's in an introduction, you meet someone at a networking event, you cold call someone, you send them an email, whenever you communicate, you talk about this stuff. And I've just showed you how that might not be the most optimum way to go. So we have a different approach, and we kind of flip all that on its side and come at it from another angle. And we start with different pillars to create your foundation of knowledge. We start with value. So instead of talking about the product that you sell, focus on the value that your product offers. And we're going to dig into each of these in more detail. So the next area that we want you to focus is the problems on the prospect side that you help to resolve. Qualify refers to the questions that you should be asking. Now, when a salesperson often thinks about what am I going to say to kind of get the conversation going, they're often thinking about what am I going to tell them about what we do, how am I going to describe what we do. But really the most powerful and important thing is not what you say about what you do, it's the questions that you ask about the prospect. Not only does it get you into more productive conversations where somebody's answering, where the prospect's talking, but it also gets you valuable information and can help you in a lot of different ways. We'll talk about that. The interest column here refers to at some point you do need to talk about yourself. So I kind of said let's focus on them, but you got to talk a little bit about yourself, and we'll talk about what that looks like and how to talk about yourself in the best light. Credibility. Establish credibility by talking about some other companies that you've worked with. And objections is the last one. Objections are actually your prospects' messaging, right? That's what they say to you. That's what they say to get rid of you. And your messaging approach should have some responses to those. And we're going to show you a game plan there. So the fact is, this is a bit uncomfortable, right? You really kind of have to get. This is not your natural direction to go, but this is a more prospect-focused approach. Just about everything here is focused on the prospect except for the interest area. But when you have this foundation of knowledge, and this is what we would help you, what we're going to help you to build or get going, the direction to get going in here today, this becomes a foundation, and then that factors into everything that you say. And then you become sounding more like a business person and advisor, and creating really productive conversations and opening the dialogue with prospects that might not be in buying mode, so that you have those relationships when they do shift into buying mode. So let's go through each of those, and if I'm talking quickly, it's because we got a lot of information to cover here, so I want to make sure we get to everything. If there are any questions, David, feel free to interrupt me. Let's make this as interactive as possible. But we're just going to go through these columns one at a time. When I said value can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. The way we use it and the way a lot of people use it is that it's well, one way to look at it is that it's the transfer of basically something almost intangible from one party to another. So when you help someone out, when you give something to someone, that's offering them value, right? So if you're a business person and you're selling something, I'm hoping that the product that you sell does offer some sort of value. I mean, there are some cases where you might sell something that is extremely commoditized and it really doesn't offer too much value. I would say look towards, maybe the high level of customer support that you offer is the value that you offer, or maybe the low level of price is the value that you offer rather than what the product does. But in most cases, the product that you sell should offer some sort of value to somebody. So for example, it might make something work better, might make something more reliable, make something automated, might help someone to save time, might help someone to make more money, whether they're an individual or they're a business, make more money, save money, and whatnot. So what you want to do is you want to start to try to think about what are the real benefits that my products offer and focus more on that in your talk tracks. So we actually do we can get very granular in the levels of in the value in figuring out the different types of value that you offer, and we actually break it down into 3 levels. So at the lowest level, the most visible level, you offer technical value, and this is like improving a process or a system or improving people, so automating stuff, improving performance, maybe improving the performance of employees or whatnot, decreasing the amount of time it takes to do something. When you deliver or your clients realize that value, that will work its way up to create business value. So that could help them in the area of revenue, costs, and services. So I spent a lot of my career working at software companies, and they always focused on you want to have business conversations with clients, and I always wonder what do you want me to talk about their balance sheet or talk about accounting? What do you mean have business conversations? And my management and leadership could never really answer that to me. They knew that what really compels people to buy are sometimes the business drivers, right? Well, with this model, look at the technical value that you offer and see how that impacts your clients at a business level. When you automate something, what does that impact in terms of their costs or their revenue? And then you can start to realize the business value that you offer, and it's then talking about that business value that leads to the right types of business conversations with prospects. It's not about talking about their investors or whatnot. And it doesn't stop there, because when your clients realize business and technical value, then they will realize personal value. So if you sell to a CFO, what does it mean to them when they create all these improvements in their organization? Well, they might get promoted, they might get a better bonus, they might be able to go home at night and have dinner with their family. So, and if you sell B2C, this might be a little different, but some of the business value is really, it's like personal income. Instead of a company making more money, maybe they have increased personal income, so you might need to do a conversion there. This is a bit granular, so you don't need to get this sophisticated. I mean, maybe just start with thinking about 3 benefits that you offer. And once you identify a couple benefits, then I want to show you what you can do with that is you can plug it into something like this. I have a template here, and you can create what we call a value statement. So you basically just say, we help whoever you typically work with, and then insert one of your benefits. So like, we help businesses to improve their ability to effectively manage their inventory levels. We help CFOs to decrease the cost of goods sold and administrative time. And once you have those value points, you can mix and match to make even really powerful statements like combining the technical value with the business value. We help businesses to improve their ability to effectively manage their inventory levels, and this often leads to a decrease in cost of goods sold as well as administrative time. So, and if you really you can't let go of talking about your product, which sometimes it makes sense to never let go of mentioning the product. You could say something like this instead of just talking about the product you sell. Hey, you know what? We provide inventory management software, and it helps businesses to improve their ability to effectively manage inventory levels. So those are some quick 1-sentence statements that communicate the value that you offer. Now, do those statements close deals? No. But are those really more powerful talk tracks? Sure. Those are great statements to open a cold call with. Instead of saying, I'm a salesperson, I want to sell you this, or I'm with this company and we sell this, start out with your value statement. The reason why I'm calling you is that we help businesses to improve their ability to effectively manage inventory levels. So that's a great way to open a call. It's also a great way, we're going to talk about objections later in this presentation, but you can use your value statement as a way to respond to objections. A gatekeeper will love to ask you, what is this call in regards to? Instead of saying something like, oh, well, I'm calling to schedule a meeting to see what you guys are using for whatever, which says I'm a salesperson, get rid of me, or reply with your value statement. What is this in regards to? Is this a sales call? Well, the reason why I'm reaching out to you is we actually provide inventory management software, and this helps CFOs to decrease their cost of goods sold and administrative time. So you can use it, your value statement, in a lot of different ways, responding to objections and whatnot. So I'm going to show you a slide here that we call messaging workflow, and after each column and area that we talk about, I'm going to come back to this slide. The reason why is because each of these areas helps you to figure out what to say in the next, and that'll make more sense after I do a couple of these. But let me just show you. If you start, so you're trying to maybe figure out what is the key value that I offer. We'll start with the product. What is the product that you sell? And then just start out by identifying at a minimum, three value points. So if we start with inventory management software, I can extract from that we help to decrease time spent ordering, increase ordering accuracy, decrease time gathering information. So just a quick brain dump there. By the way, I've never sold inventory management software. This is a fictitious scenario. So I don't know anything about inventory management software. So let's move on to the next area. Okay, that's value. Now let's move on to pain. And what pain basically is something on your prospect side that's not working well and most likely causing some sort of negative impact. Although it doesn't necessarily need to be that obvious. Maybe it could be that something could be working better. So there's a difference there, right? Something's not working good is pain. But then there's also pain where things are okay, but there's this great huge gap. Like, for example, there's a manual process that your prospect has just become accustomed to, and they don't really know that they're spending much more work, and there's no negative impact. You can automate that. So you can make things 10 times better. And so that's pain. It's actually called latent pain. They don't know that it exists, but it's there. So something to keep in mind. A key thing to try to figure out when you're prospecting is, are things great, good, okay, or could be better? If they're great or good, then there's no pain, and maybe that's not a good prospect for you to spend your valuable time selling to. If things are okay or could be better, maybe there's some pain there. Now, getting granular with pain, we have those same three levels, right? So at the technical level, the most visible level, you might have technical pain. Something's not working right, or it's slow, it's not reliable. Those challenges are causing business pain, so there's high costs. The revenue's not as high as it could be. That could be causing personal pain for your buyer. Maybe they're worried about losing their job. They're having to work on the weekends and take time away from their family. So start thinking about what pain points do you fix, and those should be key in your talk tracks. Those are more important than talking about the great bells and whistles of your product. People don't buy the bells and whistles of your product. People buy solutions to fix their problems. So I've sold, like I said, I've sold software for a lot of companies, and I would imagine that there's a lot of salespeople that I've worked with in the past that could talk the speeds and feeds, but if they really had to make a list of the key problems that fixes for the prospects that they're trying to sell to, it might take them, they might not know at the top of their head, right? If they were really pressed on a whiteboard and you said, come on, think of it, they might, after 20 minutes be able to pull together a list. You have to have that list at the top of your head. It has to be closer to the front of your mind than the features of your product. So if you don't know the key list of problems to throw, by the way, you can throw them into a conversation. You can, and so, for example, if you're trying cold calling someone, you could actually say, hey, I talk with a lot of CFOs, and they have this type of challenge and they have that type of challenge. Are you seeing any of that at your company? Right? That's a way to give pain in order to get pain. So it's very important. You could also use pain as a way to respond to objections. If someone says, we're not interested. Oh, okay, yeah, I understand. But a lot of CFOs I talk to, they're concerned about inventory turnover and how that's impacting the cost of goods sold. So that's an area that just to confirm, that's an area that you don't have any concerns about. So that's a way to use pain to respond to an objection. So how do you get to that key list of pain points? Well, here's a systematic way that you can get there. We left off with a few value points, and I pulled those over onto this slide that we are returning to. For each of these value points, there is an associated pain point in theory, right? If you help to fix something, then that in theory fixes some sort of problem. Let me rephrase that. If you help to improve something, that should help to fix some sort of problem or make some sort of challenge go away. So let's look at the list. If you help to decrease time spent ordering, then for your ideal prospect, maybe they're spending too much time ordering. And if you help to increase ordering accuracy, then that might help to resolve the issue that ordering errors are occurring. And if you help to decrease the amount of time it takes to gather information, maybe that might eliminate the issue that it's difficult and time consuming to gather information, that there's no visibility. I mean, if these benefits don't really fix those problems, then maybe we're off with our benefits. And if the prospect that we're talking to doesn't have these problems here, then maybe they aren't interested in all those benefits that we provide. So this is a very systematic way to get to the key talk tracks that you need to have. Moving on, we're at qualify, and qualify is really the questions that you should ask. And you could relabel this area key questions, but it's really qualifying questions, because and I think early in my days as a salesperson, I remember people saying a good question to ask is, what keeps you up at night, to an executive. Well, that's not a great question in my eyes, because the answer that comes back could be a variety of different things, and they might say something that has nothing to do with my product. Let's say that I sell accounting services, and they say, well, they say that the marketing and website keeps them up at night. Okay, well, that doesn't give me much, right? So we think in your messaging, your talk tracks should be questions that are specific to identifying if the prospect fits well with what you have, and that's asking qualifying questions. We actually use a two-step qualifying process. So we refer to what we call pre-qualifying questions, and then qualifying questions, or hard qualifying questions. So pre-qualifying questions are very light questions. These aren't the questions like to figure out if they're the decision maker or if they have money to spend. These are questions just to figure out if it makes sense to even talk. And for you to spend your valuable time prospecting to them, or driving across the city to go meet them, or whatnot, or even adding them to your pipeline. So what in my view, the most powerful pre-qualifying questions are questions to determine if the problems exist that you resolve. And those are the right answers to those questions are what enable you and determine if you should schedule a meeting or add that prospect to your pipeline. And once you get in the meeting, then you can ask harder qualifying questions, which are like around what's your decision making process, what happens if you don't make any changes, what does that look like, what is the budget range that you're trying to stay within, what is the time frame. Those are really the hard the good questions to determine if the deal's real. But what you need to know today is, how do I get to those really good pre-qualifying questions? Because again, we're talking about your talk tracks here. I think probably, well, most salespeople think, oh, I can handle the meeting okay, I just need help getting more meetings. And so that's what we're really focused on today. Although I will tell you that most salespeople I work with also need help with what to do in the meetings. And this kind of helps there as well. But what pre-qualifying questions to come up with? Again, let's go back to the pain points that we fix. So if we fix these 3 pain points, then a really good prospect for us should have some of these issues. And like I said, if they don't, then maybe it doesn't make sense, for us to really chase them. So if they spend too much time ordering, right, which we can automate that, so we can improve that. So we want to talk to people that are just like really struggling with how much time it takes to order. So a good question to ask there is how concerned are you about the time it takes to produce your orders every night or every week or whatever, right? And so you're going to get some information from the prospect. They're going to say it goes pretty good, no problems, or it takes a while or whatever. So you're going to get their temperature on how they fit against that pain point. You help to fix ordering errors from occurring. So a great question to ask there is, how often are there errors with the orders that you process, right? I mean, when was the last time you had an error? What does that cost, right? So those are the really good pre-qualifying questions. Those are great questions to ask on a cold call. When you're talking to someone at a networking event. Those are good questions to open a meeting with. If you haven't, if you go on an appointment, and if you haven't asked those yet, those might be good to start out with. So that's how you come up with a really what we call an optimum list of pre-qualifying questions, and that should be part of your talk tracks. That's the most important part of your talk tracks. By the way, we're going to show you, again, we're going to get to objections at the end, but your qualifying questions are great responses to almost any objection. So a prospect says, oh, just send me your information. Oh yeah, you know what? I'd love to send you my information so I know exactly what to send you. Do you mind if I ask how much time you're spending processing orders every night? Right? So then they might answer that, and I get some information. Maybe then I can ask a follow-up question to that, and we've gotten away from them asking me to send them their information. Or if they say, I'm not interested. Oh, I understand. Could I ask you real quick how often errors occur in the orders that you're processing? Again, so using your pre-qualifying questions to respond to objections. Moving on to the next stage here, which is interest. So I mentioned at some point you need to talk about yourself, right? And the caveat that I would say is we often talk too much about ourselves. I've already talked about that. And we try to often talk as much about ourselves in order to sell the prospect on wanting to buy from us. Even if it's not a one-call close, we still want to build enough interest so that they want what we have. When the reality is that you just really need to build enough interest so that you can close on the next step of your sales process, which may be having a meeting. If you meet someone at a networking event, maybe the next step in your sales process might be to pop in their office next week or to have coffee, right? So you just need to build enough interest so that you can close for that next step. So you could talk about your product or service. You might want to talk about the pain that you resolve specific to them. What I like doing, or what I think is good, is really focusing on the ROI that you have to offer, talking about how you're different from either your competition or different from them doing nothing, sharing a client story, painting a picture of a future state if they were to work with you, discussing the impacts of kind of the status quo. So again, back to this, one thing you could do is you could look at the value you offer and then use that to try to create some building interest talk tracks, like try to find some examples of where you've delivered that value in the past and what that means from an ROI standpoint. The next section here is credibility, and at some point I think that's really important for your talk tracks to just sort of establish your credibility. And this is kind of two ways. Like when you're cold calling, you might need to establish your initial credibility, which might either be with a gatekeeper or a prospect right when they answer the phone. So I would say to name drop other people that you've spoken to in the organization, which immediately kind of establishes your credibility as already being involved and connected. But then beyond that, once you get into discussions and you're working a lead, you need to establish credibility as being a real provider, a reliable, trustable business partner. And so maybe storytelling, displaying a lack of availability for your products or services, uh, think about like the store at the Apple running out of new devices when they get released, or there's a line. Creates a lack of availability, which really sub-communicates that the products are really valuable and credible and important. Lack of neediness, a picture of consensus. So there's nothing real powerful in kind of sub-communicating that there's a lot of people that want what you have. Saying, oh yeah, we're booked up for meetings next week, but we can meet with you the week after or whatnot. So you can go back to the workflow, use some of, again, the value that you offer points to figure out some name drops, some examples of who you've helped in the past to create some name drop examples, and use those in your talk tracks for sure. And the last section here, let me just check the time real quick, and we're doing pretty good on time. So the last one here is objections, right? So part of your talk tracks needs to have responses for objections. And what are objections? Well, they're your prospect stop sign, where they try to get rid of you or end the conversations, right? So I'm busy right now. What is this in regards to? I'm not interested. Just send me your information, right? So I'm sure you've seen some of those. So, and those are if you don't have a game plan, those are pretty hard to respond to. And the neat, well, I'll get to some ways to handle those, but let me first say, you should at least have a game plan for how to respond to those. And there's only about 10 objections that you're going to consistently face, and most of them I had on that slide. And then what you would add to what was on that slide are probably some that are specific to your business, right? You and I both face what was on that slide, but only you face certain ones. Like it takes too long to get to set up your type of software, right? I don't face that. That's specific to you, so you need to add those. But you want to create an objections map, and think of it as a two-column grid with one column with your objections and the other column with the responses, and put that on your wall, and that will immediately improve your results. Now, what I'm going to show you here is probably a pretty powerful thing. We actually have a training module on objections, so you might want to check that out if you haven't seen that. But because it's a whole subject in itself in terms of how to respond and get around objections. But all of the content we created at those other stages, most of it can be used as responses to objections. And I've kind of already gone through a couple of these, right? So someone says, well, is this a sales call? Well, the reason why, and so you don't say yes or no, you say your value statement. The reason why I'm reaching out to you is that we help businesses to blah, blah, blah. Someone says, I'm not interested. Respond with your pain points. Someone says, I'm not interested. You could respond with your pre-qualifying questions. Just about all of the objections that you run into, you can respond with those three things. There are times where you might want to respond with your building interest points, like they say, oh, we already use somebody for that, and then you could respond with maybe the ways that you're different. Oh, I understand, and I'm not trying to sign you up today. I don't even know if you're a good fit for us. But some ways that we differ from the company that you are using is that we're easier to use and whatnot. You could use a name drop to respond to your objection. So that is pretty much the tips that we have for modifying your talk tracks. I know it's a lot of information, but some key takeaways there are, focus more on your value, figure out what common problems you help to fix, and then ask those questions to see if those problems exist in your cold calls and your emails. By the way, all that content, so if I went back to the emails that I received, those were all about the salesperson, their company, their services. What you can do is you can create an email that has a value focused email, right? That just focuses on the benefits that you provide. So it might say something like, the reason why I'm reaching out to you is that we help manufacturers to reduce inventory turnover, reduce order times and ordering errors. I don't know if you're wanting to drive those improvements, but that's why I'm reaching out to you, right? So what a more powerful way to communicate, instead of saying I sell inventory management software, and it does this and it does that, right? A prospect might not be looking for inventory management software, but they might be interested in purchasing the improvements that I have to offer. And you can do the same thing with the pain points. You know, I work with a lot of supply chain managers, and they struggle with this, and this. Don't know if you're struggling with that or if you're concerned about those areas, but that's why I'm reaching out to you. So there's an email message right there. You can use that in a voicemail script. You know, the reason why I'm reaching out to you is I work with CFOs and I help them to blah blah blah, and I'll try again next week to talk to you about how we do that. You know, so again, in all those messaging examples right there, I didn't talk about my company and my product, and so it's just our philosophy that that's a more powerful way to go. If you agree with that, and it's okay if you don't, you might want to check out SalesScripter, because you saw the workflow I went through. Now you could do all of that in an Excel spreadsheet, and a Word document, a piece of paper, pen, whatever. You know, you can brainstorm all those points and create your own talk tracks. But SalesScripter does all that for you, and so it kind of takes you through a workflow to say, you know, it asks you, what do you sell, how does it help, what problems do you help to fix, and what questions should you ask to see if those problems exist. I mean, in a nutshell, that's what it does. It's a little bit more complicated. Here's a screenshot, and you can kind of see from the navigation bar, it kind of takes you through value, pain, qualify, you know. So it's kind of aligned with what I just went through, but the software kind of makes it easy for you to get all your thoughts together. And so once you get all those thoughts together, all your answers then plug into a library of documents that, such as those points, are then used to create a cold call script. And you see a lot of text here. The majority of that text is created by us, and then your key points and key questions just fill in the blanks. So voila, then you'll have a number of different call scripts and meeting scripts, a number of different email templates. The email template example that I just went through verbally, this is a value focused email template right there. Here's a voicemail script, and I mentioned objections and creating an objections map. You get an objections map automatically through SalesScripter. Also, if you can print out those documents and put them on your desk. We also have interactive tools that you can use while you're making calls that show you all the objections on one side. Your voicemail scripts are easily accessed across the top, and then you can kind of go through what to say at each point of your script next, only being displayed with what you need to say next. So if you're a manager of salespeople, that's a really cool train. It's a good tool to train people quickly and get people ramped up quickly. So that's all I'm going to say about the training module here. Well, the topic here today. That's all I'm going to say about SalesScripter. If you want more help, here's what I would do. If you like what we've talked about, go to our YouTube channel, and there's a link here for YouTube, or you can go to YouTube and search SalesScripter, and you'll come across our channel. There's over 130 videos on that channel. There's also a playlist called Sales Prospecting 101 Training, and there's 13 modules in there of content similar to this. So I mean, you could go watch our whole training program for free on YouTube. There's clients that I have that use that as their new employee onboarding, and it's free. And the reason why I'm okay with that is because if you like all that, then I think you're going to probably end up using SalesScripter, the software, at some point. And if you'd never used SalesScripter, then I hope I helped you out. On that channel, you'll find all of our past webinars. There's also some short videos with sales tips, 2 to 5 minute videos with quick tips. There's a bunch of videos that show you SalesScripter, so subscribe to our channel. By the way, you'll get an email with this recording, but this will also be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So anytime we have a future webinar, you're going to get, if you get notifications through YouTube or view who you're subscribed to, you'll find out, you'll get our past and future videos. Step 2, get one of our books. So if you like sort of what we shared with you here today, there's a lot more written on all these topics in a lot more detail. So if you go to salescripter.com/ebooks, there's 5 ebooks that you can check out. I believe if you actually enter your email address, you get an email with all 5 at once. Those are all like 10-20 page ebooks, and they're all free. I did write a book that's on Amazon, and so this book is like 250 pages, 230 something pages, and so if you're looking for like a more thorough resource, and it's also a good resource to have on your desk to flip through. It's organized in a way where there's a chapter on objections, there's a chapter on pain, there's a chapter on qualifying, so you can get to. It's a good resource to get to easily get to the key thing that you want to improve. So check that out. Step 3 would be sign up for a sales scripter trial. It's free. There's a 30-day trial, and then if you get beyond that and you want our help, we actually do provide a scripter walkthrough, which is where we'll go through all those stages with you and help you to figure out what your value is, what the problems you help to fix are, what questions you should ask. You actually get a free scripter walkthrough with an annual subscription. So check that out. And step 4 will be, if you get through all those, or if you want to jump to step 4, you can contact us for one-on-one sales coaching or consulting or training. We work with clients, whether they're using SalesScripter or not, and help them to structure their sales processes, their messaging, their strategy. The neat thing about our sales training is that what you see on YouTube, we can provide in live training. But what's really cool is that if you have a team and we fill out SalesScripter with your info, like your value points, your pain points, your scripts, and everything, we can very easily take our full Sales Prospecting 101 training program and easily convert it to your environment and then teach it to your people. So when we're talking about concepts of pain and value, we're using your exact points, and so it's really a really powerful way to go, and it's really fairly easy to customize. So that is it, and let me see, I think we're right on time. So we're at 1:50. We have 10 minutes till the top of the hour. So David, I don't know if there are any questions in the queue or anything teed up, but it's all yours.